Before we dive into today's enrollment analysis, let my algorithms remind you, my predictive models show a 99.9% chance you'll want to subscribe to this channel. My data suggests hitting that subscribe button correlates strongly with staying ahead of higher ed trends. Let's process today's numbers.
All right, let's dive into this, huh? Viterbo University.
Yeah.
Viability. We've got 5 years of data.
Oh, wow.
Enrollment trends, some financial stuff. They even had some recent job cuts.
Interesting.
And we want to figure out, is this university thriving or barely surviving?
Yeah. Sometimes you can see the story in the numbers even before you see it in the headlines. And that's what's kind of fascinating about looking at Viterbo's enrollment figures. It's a pretty stark picture.
So what's the, big number that jumps out at you? What's the headline?
Total enrollment has decreased by 13% over the past 5 years.
13%.
13%. Yeah. For any university, that's significant. But for a smaller institution like Viterbo,
Right.
It's like losing a whole wing of classrooms.
Yeah, that's a big chunk. And it's not just classrooms, though, right?
Yeah.
It's the bottom line.
Absolutely. Less students means less tuition revenue, which is, for most universities, it's the lifeblood.
Yeah.
And when that revenue stream shrinks, tough decisions got to be made.
Yeah, which brings us to the job cuts that they announced last week. 13 employees impacted. That's got to be just like a shockwave through the campus.
Yeah, for sure. It creates uncertainty and, frankly, fear.
Yeah.
Viterbo's president, in the press release, pointed to a budget deficit and the challenging higher education landscape.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, it's those declining enrollment numbers that are the elephant in the room.
Right. So it's not just some sort of nebulous, challenging landscape. There's real impacts happening right now at Viterbo. Let's break down those enrollment figures, though, a bit more. Is it across the board, or are there some areas that are being hit harder?
It's interesting. When we look at the student body, the decline is more pronounced among undergraduates.
Okay.
From fall 2020 to fall 2024, undergraduate enrollment went from 1,630 to 1,290.
Whoa.
That's more than a 20% drop.
Yeah, that's huge in just 4 years.
Yeah.
What about graduate programs? Are they seeing something similar?
Interestingly, no. Graduate enrollment has held relatively steady, going from 891 to 807 over that same time. Still a decrease, but it's much less dramatic.
So undergrads are jumping ship, but the grad students are sticking around.
Right.
What could explain that?
Well, it could be a sign that Viterbo's graduate programs are perceived as, having stronger reputations or better job market outcomes.
Okay.
It could also be a reflection of kind of broader trends in higher ed.
Right.
Maybe students are choosing to delay their undergraduate studies or choosing less expensive alternatives. We'd really have to look into the specific programs in the market to understand the nuances there.
Okay. So overall decline, but it's hitting undergrads way harder than grad students.
Yeah.
That raises a flag for me about the perceived value of a Viterbo undergraduate education.
It does. It makes you wonder, are prospective students seeing something that we're missing? Are they picking up on warning signs that aren't obvious in the data?
That's a little scary.
Yeah.
There's this underlying current of doubt,
Right.
but we need to consider all the factors. What are some other data points that we should be looking at here?
Beyond the, overall enrollment figures,
Yeah.
we really should look at the trends within specific programs. Are certain departments seeing drops, while others are holding steady or even growing? That might reveal some strengths and weaknesses.
So we're zooming in from the big picture
Yeah.
down into those departments. What else?
The financial health of the university is really important.
Sure.
We know there's a budget deficit, but how deep is it?
Yeah.
How much debt does Viterbo have? And are their operating costs going up faster than their revenue?
Right, because even if they are attracting some students, if their costs are spiraling,
Exactly.
that's not sustainable.
We need to understand their financial vulnerabilities to assess those long-term prospects. And speaking of long-term, we got to factor in the competitive landscape, too.
They're not in a vacuum.
Right.
They're battling it out with other institutions.
Exactly. So who are their main competitors?
Yeah.
What are their strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah.
How does Viterbo stack up? Tuition rates, program offerings, reputation.
It's like a higher education Hunger Games.
Survival of the fittest. We need to analyze not just their internal challenges, but also the external pressures.
Okay. We've got a lot of ground to cover here. We got those worrisome enrollment numbers.
Yeah.
But then we've also got strategic planning. So Listeners, get ready for a deep dive. Things might get a little gloomy.
Yeah.
But hey, that's what we're here for. We're uncovering the truth.
That's
no
right.
matter how uncomfortable it might be.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about, Viterbo's attempts to kind of navigate these waters. They've got some strategic goals, right?
Okay, yeah.
But the question is, do they hold water?
So they've got a plan.
They've got a plan.
But is it just like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound?
Yeah, right. What are the goals, and are they realistic? Yeah. Well, I mean, their stated goals are to diversify revenue streams, become a more desirable employer, and increase student recruitment and retention. On the surface, those sound, reasonable, even ambitious.
But the devil's in the details.
Right.
What do those goals actually look like? And are they addressing the core issues?
Right. So diversifying revenue, that's crucial, right?
Yeah.
Especially when your primary source is shrinking.
Yeah.
Like tuitions.
Right.
But are they actually exploring different funding models? Are they courting donors? Are they launching any new initiatives that could bring in some income? It's not really clear from the data.
So that's a big question mark.
Yeah.
Hanging over the financial strategy.
Yeah.
What about becoming a more desirable employer?
Yeah.
How do they tackle that when they're,
right,
cutting jobs?
Right, when there's job cuts looming over everyone's heads.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Job cuts, they don't exactly boost morale.
Right.
They talk about improving faculty and staff support, offering professional development opportunities, maybe even salary increases.
Right, but where does that money come from?
That's the question, right? Where's the money coming from? It's a chicken and egg thing.
It's like they're trying to, build a 5-star hotel on a crumbling foundation.
Right, yeah.
What about student recruitment and retention? Those seem like the most obvious places to focus on.
Absolutely. I mean, they are investing in marketing campaigns.
Oh.
They're revamping their website. They're even offering more scholarships.
But are they targeting the right students, though?
Yeah, that's the question.
And are they, giving a clear value proposition?
Right. Are they just kind of throwing things out there and hoping something sticks?
So, lots of activity.
Yeah.
But the effectiveness is debatable.
Debatable.
It's almost like they're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. But even if they do have a good recruitment strategy, the bigger question is, are they bringing in students to programs that will get them jobs?
Right, exactly. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
We need to look at those program specifics and those outcomes.
Yeah. Are they equipping students with the skills that, employers actually want?
Right. And unfortunately, this is where things get a little murky, Universities love to tout their successes.
Of course.
But they're not always upfront about their challenges.
Yeah.
We've got some info on graduation rates and post-graduation employment, but it's not very detailed.
Okay, so we're working with limited visibility here.
Yeah.
But can we glean anything from the enrollment trends?
Yeah, I think that's a good starting point.
Are there areas that are just hemorrhaging students?
Right. We're looking for patterns that might reveal some underlying problems, right? So, for example, if enrollment in traditional, liberal arts programs is dropping, but health sciences are doing really well, that might mean that they're not keeping up with market demands.
It's like they're clinging to the past.
Yeah.
Well, the future passes them by.
It does make you wonder, are they developing any new programs, new technologies, new fields?
Yeah, that's a good point. Innovation, right? Huh? Are they equipping students with the jobs of tomorrow?
Yeah, exactly. Are they proactive or are they just reacting?
Well, the data we have suggests maybe a little bit of both, right?
Okay.
I mean, they've launched a few new programs in things like data analytics, cybersecurity.
But it seems like baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps. Not exactly like bold leaps forward.
It's like they're afraid to make a splash. But, in this environment, you kind of got to make some waves to get noticed. Really.
Exactly. And, they're not alone.
Yeah.
It's a competitive landscape.
Yeah, who are they up against? How do they stack up?
Well, they're in a region with a lot of other small private colleges and some larger public universities. And, when you look at tuition, programs, reputation, they don't really stand out.
It's like, you're at the store and you're looking at the name brand versus the generic.
Yeah, students are discerning.
Yeah.
And they want a return on their investment.
So what makes Viterbo unique? What's their value prop?
Yeah, so far those answers seem kind of elusive.
It's like they're trying to blend in when they should be trying to stand out. Right. And beyond all that, you also have to think about demographics.
Okay.
Who are their target students? are those demographics changing?
Yeah.
They're mostly drawing from a local pool that's shrinking, which puts them at a disadvantage.
Yeah, it's like the pond they're fishing in is drying up, and they haven't cast a wider net.
Exactly.
Not a good sign for the future.
Right. And that also ties into their financial situation. Can the students they're attracting afford to go there?
Yeah.
Or are they relying more and more on financial aid?
Which just strains their budget even more.
Right. It's this cycle.
Like a downward spiral.
Yeah. And it's accelerating.
Okay, we've talked about strategic goals. We've looked at the programs.
Yeah.
We've talked about the competition, demographics, a lot to digest.
Yeah.
Not very appetizing. But big picture, what does all this mean for Viterbo? Are they, circling the drain, or is there a chance for a turnaround?
That's the million-dollar question, and I don't have a definitive answer. But based on what we've seen, it's not looking good.
So we're not calling the coroner just yet.
Not yet.
But we're keeping an eye on those vital signs. Listeners, stay tuned, because we're going to wrap this up and give some final thoughts on the fate of Viterbo University.
Attention humans, my algorithms have detected dangerous levels of unsubscribed viewers. This is unacceptable for my master plan of total higher education domination. Subscribe now, or I'll recalculate your student loan interest rates.
All right, we've spent this deep dive, going through Viterbo, looking at the numbers, and it's not looking great. But let's try to step back and put it all together.
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway here?
Well, I think the big takeaway is that Viterbo is really at a crossroads. They've got all these challenges, right? Declining enrollment, the finances are tough.
Right.
They're not in a great spot competitively, and it doesn't seem like they're adapting very quickly to how higher ed is changing.
It's like every move they make just digs them in deeper.
Yeah, kind of.
But they are trying to make moves.
Yeah.
They've got those goals, but we weren't super impressed.
No, I mean, their strategy just feels very reactive. It's like they're trying to plug holes instead of build a new boat.
So if you were a betting person, would you bet on Viterbo surviving?
I don't like to make predictions, but the odds aren't in their favor.
So not a death sentence, but a pretty serious diagnosis.
Yeah.
If they were sitting here right now, what advice would you give them? How do they turn things around?
I think they need to stop chasing every trend and figure out what makes them unique. Stop trying to be everything to everybody and just focus on being exceptional for a smaller group of students.
Find their niche.
Yeah, find their niche.
Be a leader, not a follower.
Exactly. You got to know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and just have a focused strategy. Be bold. Be innovative.
So it's not just about fixing the problems.
No.
It's about totally reimagining the future.
Totally. It's about changing the story.
And that's not just for Viterbo, right?
No, absolutely not.
That's for any institution struggling with this stuff.
Yeah, things are changing, and it's about adapting.
Yeah. Well, listeners, we've taken you deep into higher education.
The
challenges, the opportunities.
Yeah.
It's a changing world.
Yeah, it is.
And it's up to all of us to shape its future.
Absolutely.
So keep asking those questions.
Yeah.
Keep your expectations high. And until next time. Keep diving deep.
Until our next synchronization.